My name is Molly Smith, and I'm going to be responding to some questions for my special ed class for my master's degree. Number one, what is a special education teacher's role in supporting learning, improving planning and practice, uploading professional expectations and ethics, and collaboratively advancing the profession? I feel as a special ed teacher, we need to make sure that we are always up to date on our education. We need to make sure that we are always up to date with curriculum, with laws. I need to work with my peers, ask questions about how I can improve my teaching abilities for my students. I also need to know about my students so I can improve their learning. I want to make sure that all of my students receive the best teaching that I can give them, the best instruction. The best thing I can say is that I work right now with middle school ASD children, and we are in a K through 12 setting for school, and each of my students learns differently. Each of my students processes differently, and I know that it is my job to make sure that I'm professional with them, that I am able to provide them what they need when they need it. And if I have to be creative about it, that's what I'm going to do. And I've had to do that with several of my students. Make sure that I'm creative so that they know that I'm listening to them, that I'm not just throwing a bunch of curriculum and state standards and saying, hey, this is what you have to do. The second question is about the dispositions and what I currently have. I've been teaching for 3 years now. Absolutely love my job. I feel that educators should believe that all students can learn and should be supportive and have realistic expectations for student success. Most of our students do not leave our program. Some of them will transition back to their home school. Most of our students will graduate off of an IEP. And that's fine. I have to do whatever I can to support their needs, and that is my job as an educator. The next one is educators should be sensitive to individual learning and social needs of students and embrace the cultural diversity of the community. Our school is 95% poverty level, so we have a very diverse group of students in there. The 5% are the ones that are not on free and reduced meals, so we have a lot of students with a lot of difficulties and very, very difficult backgrounds. So I, as an educator, need to make sure that I understand these needs and I'm being sensitive to them, and I'm not making light of their situation when it comes to them not learning or them not understanding or doing schoolwork. I have to be very flexible with that. The last one is educators should promote and support curiosity, encourage active inquiry. I do this a lot with my students. Since my classroom has 10 middle school boys from 6th grade up to the 8th grade, they have a lot of diversity and a lot of interests. So I use a lot of those interests to keep them going and motivated to do their work. Star Wars is huge. A lot of card games I use for not only social skills, but also for learning, math, reading. I will take comic books. I've used drawings. I've pulled a lot of different hats with teaching my students, and it has been very successful. And they've learned. They don't become frustrated. They don't become aggressive or agitated, and they actually enjoy learning when they come to my room. The third one is, what effect could personal biases have on expectations that teachers have for their students? How could these biases affect their relationships with students and their families? If I were to assume that every one of my students is going to go to Harvard and be the best that they can be, that expectation is not going to happen. Many of our students do continue on after they graduate from our school, and they do get jobs and they're very successful. I tell them I want to show them life skills. I want them to understand how to survive and how to live on their own. And that doesn't always come out of a textbook. That comes out of day-to-day learning and support from myself, my peers, my paras. So it is difficult. It is very difficult when you have students that most of their families have never graduated from high school or have continued their education. So my goal is to make sure that I understand them and I empathize with them, and I'm not putting high expectations on them. So that's what I have. Thank you for listening.